One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, one of the best movie adaptations ever made. The movie itself is based on the book by Ken Kesey that came out in 1962, and the movie itself came out in 1975 by Milos Forman. Both book and the movie are focused on exposing the cruel treatment of patients in the mental institutions, but the story itself is focused around one man, and his name is Randall McMurphy.
R.P. McMurphy.
Not actually being mentally ill, Randall McMurphy gets into the mental institution in order to avoid prison farm.
Tell me, do you think there's anything wrong with your mind, really?
Not a thing, Doc. I'm a goddamn marvel of modern science.
Now, before demonstrating the scene chosen for analysis, here's what happened so far. Meanwhile, the book itself is told through the perspective of Chief Brompton, a pretending to be deaf and dumb Indian. The movie begins with a demonstration of the hospital grounds and Nurse Ratched. The clear protagonist of the movie, however, is not Chief Brompton, but the newly arrived Randall McMurphy. Randall is under the impression that by being in the mental institution, he can in fact avoid the workload that he was expected to do in the work farm and enjoy the life of playing cards all day. That, of course, wasn't true at all, because all the patients of the mental institutions are obligated to attend all group meetings that are hosted by the main nurse, Nurse Ratched. It becomes greatly evident that through these therapeutic sessions, she in fact turns the patients against each other in order to establish her power as a very, very irrepressive leader. It is clear that McMurphy is not led by her manipulations. He, in fact, represents a new regime that is about to come out. Power struggle between Ratched and McMurphy begins to arise. In fact, one of the key events that have impacted the way mental institution is working was when McMurphy suggested they take a vote. Now, according to the hospital rules, the patients are not allowed to watch the TV during the time of a recreation. However, McMurphy suggests that they take a vote, and if the majority wins, they will be allowed to turn on the TV.
All right. That's it.
I only count 9 votes, Mr. McMurphy.
He only counts 9. Only 9. It's a landslide.
There are 18 patients on this ward, Mr. McMurphy, and you have to have a majority to change ward policy. So you gentlemen can put your hands down now.
However, McMurphy then asked Chief Brompton, who is deaf and dumb, to raise his hand up in order to win. And when he does, it is too late. Judging from the Marxist perspective, Nurse Ratched could not let that happen, as that would mean that McMurphy succeeds and the new regime comes into play, so she forbids any form of game watching for that night. In my opinion, I do believe Milos Forman have had a great success in improving and even bettering Ken Kesey's content into a very masterpiece-like movie. An interesting fact about the novel is that while the film is generally regarded as a cinematic masterpiece, Ken Kesey, who is the author of the book, has vowed he will never view it due to the disputes with the film's producer, Michael Douglas and Saul Zaentz. Most of the scenes represented in the movie either resemble or replicate the ones present in the book. Although some scenes may have been altered or circumstances under which they occur are changed, the point of the book remains the same, and no directorial liberties were able to prevent from delivering the main message. The concept of the book was a struggle between natural versus institutional, and Milos Forman did a great job of portraying the differences. Milos Forman added a lot of scenes for comic relief, for the book itself was heavily focused on the very hard and depressing aspects.
You all crazy?
Through exceptionally well-done casting choices, such as Jack Nicholson, Christopher Lloyd, Danny DeVito, and others, Milos Forman was able to attract a younger audience. Meanwhile, the book itself was targeted towards the audience of about 40 to 45-year-old people who already have an understanding of the mental institution and the issues regarding mental health. The movie simplifies such aspects and allows young adults to be involved as well. There is one scene in particular that gets my attention by being completely different than it was in the book. This scene has a major significance in the alteration of the book, so it is very important to watch it without any interruption. All further analysis will be done later. In order to give you some content of the book, this is what happened. According to Ken Casey and his book One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest, McMurphy sits in front of a blank TV and everybody else gathers around him. Nurse Ratched, seeing everything that happened, threatens them with shaving and everybody else goes back to work. This is what Miles Forman remade this scene into.
Koufax kicks. He delivers. It's up the middle. It's a base hit. Richardson is rounding first. He's going for second. The ball's in the deep right center. Davison over in the corner, cut the ball off. Here comes the throw. Richardson rounding first. He goes into second. He slides. He's in there. He's safe. It's a double. He's in there, Martin. Look at Richardson. He's on second base. Koufax is in big fucking trouble. Big trouble, baby. All right. Here's Tresh as the next batter. Tresh looks in. Koufax. Koufax gets the signs from Roseboro. He kicks once, he pumps, he fires. It's a strike. Koufax's curveball is snapping off like a fucking firecracker. All right, here he comes with the next pitch. Tresh swings. It's a long fly ball to deep left center. It's going. It's going. Somebody get me a fucking wiener before I die. I gotta get my belly feeling. All right. Koufax looks down. He's looking at the great Mickey Mantle now. Yeah. Here comes the pitch. Mantle swings. It's a fucking home run.
Gentlemen, stop this. Stop this immediately.
Now, let the analysis begin. Let's start off with the soundtrack that's played in the background. Meanwhile, McMurphy and his friend watch a blank TV. The song is written by Jack Nish at the release date of 1975, specifically for the movie. The music itself is calm and inspiring, reflecting the mood of McMurphy at this moment. Now, let's look at Nurse Ratched and her behavior. For instance, the difference of her behavior. The book portrays her as an evil woman who is willing to do whatever is necessary in order to maintain order. She's very triumphant in everything that she does, and the scene in the book reaffirms her strong position in the hospital. However, Miles Forman, the director of the movie, gave it a new flow. In the movie, she is in fact vulnerable. She is no longer seen as a villain, but rather an obsessed bureaucrat who wants to maintain order. Meanwhile, McMurphy complies in the book. He does not comply in the movie. Such alteration provides a new perspective on the story itself. Marxist, for instance. You can see how the working class rises above the bourgeoisie and get what they want. In this case, it is an allowance of watching TV. This action has been so symbolic. I do believe that by adding this scene, Miles Forman bettered the movie and completely improved the scene, for it now has a powerful significance. Now, why would Miles Forman alter the scene in the first place? It all begins with a group meeting. As you can see, the patients are seated in a circle to represent equality. Looking from a Marxist lens, it is communism. However, if you look at it from another perspective, it can also suggest that it is the bourgeoisie that manipulates the working class to believe that they're all equal. But everybody knows that a nurse is the main person in the hospital, and there is nothing they can do to change her way. The absolute power Nurse Ratched had over the patients in the hospital becomes undermined as McMurphy solidifies himself as a new leader. Now let's see how the costumes allowed Miles Forman to recreate the scenes into one of the most powerful scenes of the movie. As you can see, all patients are wearing white, accordingly to the dress code accepted in 1945 for all mental institutions. However, you can see that McMurphy is the only one who is wearing a blue shirt. In the psychoanalytical perspective, blue is considered beneficial to the mind and body. Now, as you can see, Nurse Ratched is also wearing white. What does that represent? She is no longer the leader of the hospital, and she's just like the other patients, led by the new leader, McMurphy. Using very brief cuts, Miles Forman wants to demonstrate the briefness yet importance of the situation. He uses a variety of shots, such as medium, long, and high-angle shots to represent different stages of power present in the scene. Another very popular shot present in the scene is a close-up. Close-ups demonstrate the power of individuality that McMurphy gave to each patient. As you can see, McMurphy himself does not have a single shot. He's always surrounded by his followers. Nurse Ratched, however, becomes belittled by his doings, and it is evident so, as she is always portrayed from a high angle. And who would have thought that such an insignificant scene in the book would play one of the most crucial roles in the movie? One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest received 5 Oscar awards: Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Screenplay, Best Director, and Best Movie Adaptation. So it is greatly evident that the work of Milos Forman was in fact a masterpiece, and his directorial liberties have only improved the scenes that were already existent in the book.